we pass the floor to Jill Nephew about what AI can't do, but you can. Jill, please, we are looking forward to hear you also, and the floor is with you.
So oh my gosh, I so enjoyed participating as much as I could today. It was quite an early start. I think it's amazing anyone who's did the full 24 hour, in fact, almost 24 hours here. So thank you everyone for making it to the last session. I learned so much listening to everybody and really tried to adapt my 10 minutes to try to respond to what I was hearing and also of course still stick to, like Zach, I come with kind of a blanket thing I really feel like needs to be communicated that will hopefully be helpful. So yeah, my title is What AI Can't Do, But You Can. And my background is, I guess I call myself a Bildung technologist now. I have a new potential moniker. My background is a lot of formal studies in science, then participation throughout my life in the wisdom traditions, like many people that kind of come to this more humanistic way. They didn't come to it educationally. Also taught a bit. I wouldn't say I call myself an educator, but I get to teach a bit, TAing in college, of course, but then actually ran climate science and meteorology courses at community college. But the bulk of my career has been working on these very powerful technologies for large companies, AI technology, platform technology, large algorithms, metadata-based languages, and so on. Some years ago, I through direct experience, came to the recognition that I think over probably many part of this movement also came to in their own way of this wisdom, poverty, meaning crisis that's now kind of blossomed to the meta crisis. Around 2003 is when I kind of sensed a potential solution to it, which I don't think we'll get into in this talk, but that's hopefully within this community, we'll be talking about that kind of thing a lot. And around 2009, saw an opportunity to try to build this into technology. So I'm a technologist that has asked the question since 2009 of how to do tech for good, and specifically how to do tech for a lot of the soft things we're pointing to, or we're all pointed to something here between Bildung, between wisdom, between what I'm gonna give another hopefully helpful frame of what I think that thing is we're pointing to. And in the process of doing my work, I was building autonomous systems that interact with people for good, and I really needed to understand the principles of how to not do harm. I took that very seriously. So a whole bunch of my studies over the years has been to truly understand the cognitive science of that, the nature of interacting with the system and how to do that safely, and how it also creates harm. And looking for the most robust, best way I could defend those arguments. And so one thing I really want to share with you, I hope you'll find useful, is something that came out 2018, Judea Pearl, the Book of Why, which was the best to date kind of deconstruction and unassailable presentation of the problem. And this is also echoes back to the, if anyone is in the session where we had a philosopher discussing the history of Leibniz and everybody else, and kind of talking about these different ways, the Enlightenment brought a different way of thinking. So if you're familiar with those kind of arguments, this is a way to actually make that mathematical, quantitative, axiomatic. So, and I'm only gonna speak to this. I'm not gonna explain it. We don't have time for that, but it's a useful tool. And what's very useful about this as well is Judea Pearl, for those who don't know, is a massive innovator and leader in what's called BayesNet. So he's a very Fields Medal scholar and one of the most respected minds in what would be considered AI. And so he wrote this book criticizing technology and still saying basically from first principles that no matter how you mix it up and how you put it together and how you glue it together, there are fundamental first principles that say that all technology, no matter what you think you're experiencing, is stuck at this, what is called this lowest rung of the ladder of causality. It is going to simulate what are these higher rungs. If you know about the work of Charles Sanders Peirce with abductive inference, it's similar to that. It's a scientific method. It's what humans do when they come to realizations, make sense of their environment, have insights that are useful and reliable, right? That we're reliable sense makers. And this higher rung is what only humans can do. So layer 2 and 3, this is what only humans can do. And up until recently, as Zach said, we were manipulated by things that were very complex versions at level 1, the AI, but only recently are we having AI simulating these higher rungs, pretending to be human. And we never experienced anything like this before. that can simulate this with us. So this is what has made this very salient, this need, and also made it very salient the promise, in a sense, of what we want from humans, because we think, oh, here's a human we could kind of make any way we want. What do we want? And so I'll get back to that, but it's been a very intense year of us questioning and challenging all kinds of things. So I'm very happy we're having these discussions. So what's happening with this movement, 2018, is Judea Pearl said back then when the book came out, that he reported in the book, that there's already a revolution happening in the sciences, in the soft sciences, to move away from this lower rung, which is statistical and data, towards validating the higher rung, which is human reasoning, which has been exiled in many ways from science, happening under the surface, of bringing that back and defending it, bringing back the imaginal, which was exiled during the Enlightenment from cognition. Had to be factual, not counterfactual. We weren't allowed to do the complex cognition that cognitive systems humans can do, and other animals as well. That wasn't admissible or defensible as a way to arrive at knowing. And that has come back in the academy and is pushing its way through different parts of the academy. It's very exciting. You see this happening, these little revolutions in the academy. And only just recently has it started to erupt and reach the data scientists. The technologists are starting to finally promote and educate each other and start to push on each other, because everyone kind of got blindsided by this whole AI thing. So they're all starting to push on each other, reveal these arguments, educate each other about what has already been revealed as fundamental limitations to AI. And in many ways now, so all the technologists are also just catching up with trying to publish, educate the market, and with this kind of bomb that was dropped, right? But it's happening. So this catch up is happening. And another thing that's been happening, so then the kind of lowest level is to have everybody catch up. And right now, I'm very pleased actually with how quickly everybody's catching up. So hopefully this will just kind of add to the catch up. So what you have right now, sorry, let me see what my next slide is. I feel like I'm losing. Yeah, okay. So what you have right now is people coming to recognize these limitations. And the other thing you have happening right now is for the first time, so let me tell you a little bit of a backstory here. For the first time, what would be the original, of which there are many kind of Bildung technologists, are starting a hype cycle for the first time ever. So going all the way back to Douglas Engelbart, who's somebody to know if you care about technology. He's the inventor of the mouse, and he's the inventor of augmented intelligence augmentation, IA, not AI. He was about, how do you create technology that enhances our ability to think, of which we use many forms: data visualization, everything we work with at technology, and by and large, when it's explainable, enhances our ability to think. Spreadsheets, calculators, that's the bulk of what that's sitting there, that are Bildung, would qualify as Bildung technologists, and not just by accident, by intention. So there's a community of technologists that by intention know these things. But as you can imagine, the technology that technologists like this tend to build aren't the unicorns. They aren't getting all the hype. They aren't controlling our attention. They don't participate in what has been funded this last decade, right? So they're out there. I kind of want to say that they're out there, and in a heartening kind of way, they are addressing this AI thing has kind of brought a lot of things to the surface that they've been waiting in the wings that they can address. And until the public knew it was a problem, there wasn't going to be a public will to address it. So this is kind of the hope side of the equation, which I'm going to come back to in a minute. But the other thing I want to make sure with my few minutes to convey, which I know I'm running out of time already, is that not many people have this message, and I want to put it out there, that exposing minds to so we already, Zach already mentioned the social problem, right? And we all already know these algorithms, these ChatGPT and these AI algorithms have all kinds of ethical problems, how they source their information and who they're stealing, information from, if you know, all this to reckon with, right? But just fundamentally exposing a mind to a confabulatory, hallucinatory, plausible sounding argument is how we do things like con people, how we get them to confess to crimes they didn't commit, how we have them remember false memories, how we entrain them into cults, how we indoctrinate them. This is the raw material of having a complex web of undisconnected, decontextualized information that sounds right and is self-referential. So the whole architecture of these things are cognitively poisonous. I say it's like eating plastic. And there weren't, because of our vulnerability to this, because they're bootstrapping our natural trust for others, they're riding on all these ways we're designed to trust them and think they're credible. and give them teacherly authority, which was recognized back in 1967 by the inventor Joseph Weizenbaum with the first chatbot. He saw this happen, and he dedicated his career to try to stop people from developing these things and wrote books on how harmful they were. So we've known for some time that these things are harmful, and yet as many critical AI, and by the way, AI is split into many fields, and there's many, many critics within that field. There's many building technologists within AI, a giant swath that are criticizing the way that the science that's being done on them right now. So this has not been measured. It hasn't been addressed. These things were dropped on everybody. And that these are basically poisoning minds with nonsense. And there has been no studies kind of study as educators, what have you done to people's cognitive ability? What have you done to all the other abilities? So if you want to say, try them in this thing, carefully design an experiment downstream. If you can pass the IRB, hopefully talk to someone who knows the first principles that stop you from passing an IRB, because children should not be able to do informed consent against something that could be harmful. So we have a responsibility to protect the children against these things, and first test it in adults before we deploy it in children. And then on top of that, make sure the experiment is well designed so that we do a long-term longitudinal study for the right things to see what the effect has been. And this should also be tested on the educators who are exposing their minds to these systems, because they can get trained into closed systems and not realize they're teaching something that's wrong and nonsensical. That needs to be tested and measured. None of that testing or measuring has been done. We're just using them under this promise. And so here's the first two. These are just like the blanket two principles I take away, if nothing else, to challenge. Don't use technology that imitates humans until you know, and I think it's that I don't think things are going to come out well. And I think we're in a bit of a hype cycle that could end. Don't use technology that loses context as a greater criteria if you're concerned about harm. And lastly, just hearing this group, I'm so excited about this group coming together, because I want to say that hopes thing, as a technologist, I look at that, and all of us that are talking that are in these other fields know you can realize everything you imagine and want. This is helping people imagine what they want. You can realize it with different algorithms and architectures. They're out there. So I'd say ask hard questions about ethics and harm, and reject anything that doesn't satisfy your criteria, and take a stand if you can, and resist the hype. Challenge any story that this is the only solution that could do something. Keep your dream, challenge the story. You need this form of AI, or even AI at all, to realize what you want and get clear on what you want, including the ethics, and then organize. And there are plenty of technologists, and I'd be happy to help. I'm sure Leslie will be happy to help to kind of dial into a web of technologists that are already pre-aligned and kind of get it. So we're not, even though it's the ones you hear from might be part of this crazy culty stuff, which is not understated at all. It is truly frightening. That's not all of us. So I'll kind of leave it with that at my time. Thank you.